Well, hello, friends. Once upon a time, a girl named Felicity and a boy named Peter bought an abandoned 1830s farmhouse in New York, and so far, most of this channel has been about the work we've been doing on the farmhouse. However, it is the holiday season, and Peter and I have been out and about at a variety of events, and since building community is such a big part of what we mean to do here, and also that's what Christmas is about, right? It's about getting out in the community and doing fun holiday themed things. So I wanted to share with you a couple of our adventures, and they start with the Winterfest in Ovid. Ovid is the community that is 2 towns north of us, so we're technically in Lodi, our house, and then the next town up is Ovid. It used to be the county seat way back in the day, and it still is kind of the county seat. The county board meets there once a year. There's a court still upstairs. So let me tell you a little bit about our experience with Winterfest. This is mostly going to be talking head because it seemed rude to film people without their knowledge, and I haven't yet gotten comfortable enough with the YouTube channel to just walk up to somebody and say, hey, can I film you for my channel? So Winterfest, as we learned, used to be a bunch of these separate events. Like everybody, like the church would host something, the Historical Society would host something, the Three Bears would host something, and then a few years ago, Tina, who we happened to meet by chance, said, hey, why don't we do all of this stuff on the same weekend so that people can come and do everything on one day and they don't have to feel like they're under obligations to do this thing one day and this thing the other day. So that is Winterfest. We had an absolutely marvelous time. We started at the Three Bears. The picture you see here is not one I took. This I stole from the Wikipedia article, but the Three Bears are a very unusual set of courthouse buildings. And in fact, Papa Bear, which is the biggest one, is where they were having the event. That's where we happened to run into Tina, who was quite lovely. And among many other things, Tina invited us to be her guests to the next Lions Club meeting in January, which Peter and I think sounds like a great way to get involved with the community. We, of course, knew about Lions Club, but we've never been members before, and we are very excited to hear that their national mission is non-political, non-religious, and you show up as and when you have time. So that's something cool for the future. We also got to go to a concert upstairs in this building, which is a courtroom and is actually still a courtroom. It used to be not a courtroom for probably several decades, and then apparently the building they were using in town to hold court sessions was condemned. So they are, in fact, using this courtroom space again as a courtroom. The group that we saw perform was an a cappella group called So Noted, and they were really fun to watch. Very interesting arrangements, some very traditional, some very not traditional. They were really, really fun. So we spent a lot of time up there with them. And then the other place that we had wanted to go was, well, 2 other places actually. We wanted to go see the Master Gardeners, who were out of what was called the Steps office. Now, we didn't know anything about Steps. And as it turns out, the concert went on long enough that the Master Gardeners were mostly over by the time we got there. However, the Steps program director, Teresa, absolutely lovely lady, and Steps is the local health, wellness, community engagement, economic development, grassroots kind of coordination program. For example, they coordinate the community garden program, they coordinate some other, pill bottle recycling programs and neighbor visit programs and that kind of stuff, which is all stuff that Peter and I are very interested in getting involved in going forward. So Teresa promised to put us in touch, and we got on their email list, and it sounds like the Steps office is actually a pretty great thing. And kind of surprising that it's in such a small community, but we actually, after this particular event, Teresa did reach out to us, and she invited us to the last quarterly meeting of the year, which we just went to on the 14th, 15th, start of this week, and it was great. So that was a really cool connection. And then the third piece of Winterfest for us, we went to the Ovid Historic Society, which is this gorgeous building. We had been admiring their window display when we drove past a few nights previous. Really cool building, lots of really interesting and neat things. One of them is this dollhouse, which is pretty much the first thing you see once you get past the first room. It's right there on the table, and I was captivated by it. My mother made me a dollhouse, a Barbie dollhouse, when I was very young, and it was out of cardboard boxes, and she totally did all the. It was a masterpiece, you guys. I wish I had a picture of it. There is a picture of it somewhere in my photo albums, but I don't have those available. It was wonderful, and I had it for many, many years, and this reminds me very strongly of that. Now, this was built from a kit, not from scratch, but it reminded me very strongly of that. So speaking of memories from the past, these antique toys underneath a fake Christmas tree display also reminded me very strongly of the past. My brother was really into Matchbox cars, if you guys remember those from the late 80s and early 90s, and of course Tonka trucks and that kind of stuff. And I have a suspicion that this is the kind of thing he would have really liked when I was a kid. I thought it was really cute. I actually really liked the colors. I'm not much into kids' toys like this, but I thought this made a really, really beautiful picture. And then, because you can't have all Christmas all the time, there was just some really interesting and weird historical stuff scattered about. For example, this is a preserved, I guess you'd call it Constitution or Articles of Confederation for the Ovid and Romulus Vigilante Society for the Detection of Thieves in 1885. I tend to think, because I grew up in Wisconsin and watched Dr. Quinn, which is set in Colorado, I tend to think of the Wild West as being west of the Mississippi at this time. I tend not to think of New York or anything really east of the Mississippi as being a wild, lawless place in 1885, but clearly it was, in fact, something of a wild and lawless place in 1885, and this proves it. But lest you think all of the strange things in this museum are from the way deep past, here is something that is super strange and weird from within my lifetime. So this is a certificate for the Order of the Skull and Bones in grateful recognition of 30 years of outstanding service serving Seneca County's problems, one death at a time. Webb W. Rankin, in deepest appreciation, is awarded this honor from his fellow coroners this 17th day of January of the year 2002. I should point out that the Historic Society is next door to a funeral parlor, which I'm almost certain is the connection between these two things. So the very last part of the Winterfest that I was really looking forward to is a Christmas parade. And I have filmed the Christmas parade for you in its entirety. Keep in mind that Ovid itself is maybe about 600 people, maybe 1,000 people, maybe 3,000 or 4,000 if you're taking in the immediate area. So when we heard they had a Christmas parade, I was pretty intrigued to see what it might entail. So that was our very first experience getting out of the car, walking around, meeting people in Ovid. It was a fantastically low-key, wonderful afternoon. Peter and I felt like we made a lot of great connections. We met a couple people in the Historic Society that are also part of the Lodi Historic Society, which is great because the Lodi Historic Society did a Christmas concert and sing-along the next day, and that is where we went the next day. So we saw a couple of those people over again. Now, some of you, if you remember all the way back to the October kind of fall montage video that I did, you may recognize this building. This is the Lodi Historic Society. It is a beautifully gorgeous church with all this lovely stained glass, and being able to go inside the church, they had a Celtic group doing a concert at the beginning and then a community sing-along at the end. Everything I've ever wanted in a adventure. So this is the church itself. The concert was fabulous. I did not take any pictures because I was totally enthralled in the moment, and the sing-along was really great. The people behind me had great voices. We talked to them afterwards. We met a couple of musicians actually afterwards who are very connected to the folk scene here, and that places Peter in particular. One of them also works on old houses and is an amateur metal detectorist. And so he expressed interest. He knew exactly where our house was, and he had been meaning to stop by and asked the owner if he could do some metal detecting in the yard. So I think we're going to do that. Maybe not this year because the ground is getting a little iffy, but we'll see. But you guys, to be honest with you, the absolute crowning moment of this day, this is an 1852 organ. It is one of the only, I think, 3 pre-Civil War organs in the United States. And during the sing-along, when that organ played the opening lines to "O Come All Ye Faithful," I'm not particularly religious, but I go to church on Christmas Eve every year, and for a number of years, I've been going to strange churches, right? Because I was a digital nomad. I wasn't ever part of a home church, and I don't really go to church. And I would always think about how crazy it was that on Christmas Eve night of all nights, all these people who never go to church and are not really part of this thing come in out of the night into the church for an hour and listen to the time-honored story and sing the time-honored carols. And "O Come All Ye Faithful" is all of that wrapped up into one. And so when that organ let loose with "O Come All Ye Faithful," I got goosebumps. I don't often get goosebumps, but I got goosebumps and definitely had a "this is so perfect, it's hard to believe it's happening" moment. It was surreal and fantastic. So both of those events were 2 weekends ago. And then last weekend, we went to see the Nutcracker. Now, I've been going to see the Nutcracker every year. It is the show that I see every year. I can't remember how it started. I did not like the Nutcracker when we went to see it when I was in school. I thought it was boring and silly. And then a number of years ago, I started taking adult ballet and had a much better understanding very quickly of how difficult any ballet is. And Portland, Oregon, which is where I lived for 15 years, has a fantastic ballet company, and they do a wonderful Nutcracker. So I must have decided at some point in my mid-20s that I was just going to give it another try. They were probably offering inexpensive tickets, and I have gone every year to a Nutcracker, except, of course, the COVID years in which I sought out a Nutcracker online. So this performance here in New York is the 5th location, I think. Portland, Oregon, Dublin, Ireland, Baltimore, Tulsa, and now New York. So yes, this is the 5th different place I've gone to look for a ballet. And parts of the ballet were really well done. I enjoyed them. Parts of them were not as well done. And of course, it's never going to be the same as the production that you've seen somewhere else, right? We were very lucky to find a production in this part of New York. We are about an hour and a half outside of Rochester, which we could have gone to go see, but I don't really want to see like a super formal one. In Tulsa, we went to go see the children's production. There was a children's dance and ballet company. It was amazing and super fun and affordable. So this is the Ithaca Ballet that we went to go see. It was fairly affordable. And I really liked the way they did the Chinese number. If you guys are familiar with that part of the Nutcracker, the second half of the Nutcracker is all these different dances from these different countries, and there's a Chinese dance, and if you do it traditionally, the way it was written 100 and some years ago, it's very racist and very offensive. So they did a good job on updating that. But what I really want to show you, I have not seen store windows decorated for Christmas in I don't know how long. Probably the last time I was in Vancouver, Washington for Christmas, which was a number of years ago. And so as we were walking around downtown from the parking garage to the Nutcracker and then coming back again, there were several Christmas windows done up, and I wanted to share those with you as the closing for this video. So that is it for this video. That's it for the things we've done out in the community. Thank you so much for being here. As always, I hope you are enjoying the holiday season if that's your thing, and I look forward to seeing you soon in my next video. Bye for now.